to answer your question, I see myself really as an opportunist.
Okay.
In pretty much all aspects of my life there. Establishing, what my priorities are. So, professionally, because that's the easiest way to goal in a lot of different conversations. So, CEO, co-founder of Freedom Healthworks. We are a membership-based primary care network across the United States. To translate that a little bit, think about the old days of cable TV when you had 500 channels and you're paying a couple $100 a month when you're really only watching maybe 4 or 5 of those.
Mm-hmm.
Along comes Netflix and other cord-cutting companies and say, now I'm going to give you television for a low subscription each month that you can watch your programming, what you want, when you want, where you want. And so we took that concept and basically applied that to healthcare services. And so what we're able to do is help physicians return back to independent medicine. And the novelty of it is, or really not even the novelty, the value is that we've torn down all the roadblocks and barriers for somebody being able to access their trusted physician. So you're not going to be rotated between a medical team anymore. You're going to talk to the same doctor who knows you, knows your family, knows your history, knows what kind of medication you're on. And you're going to pay, usually less than $100 a month all in for that. So no more confusing co-pays, co-insurance, deductibles, premiums to access your family physician. So that's really what we've been doing. We've been doing this for about 7-8 years. We're growing all over the country. Our belief is that right now in U.S. healthcare, we de-emphasize primary care, which leads to higher costs and a lot of just needless medical procedures that really just pisses everybody off. And we're trying to fight this feeling that I don't even know if it's a feeling, Will. It's more like this complacency that every time we're sick,
you gotta go see the doctor.
Well, a lot of people just pat themselves on the back and say, hey, look, I toughed this one out. I didn't have to go. People expect a really crappy experience whenever they go try to see a doctor or do anything procedurally. And we're like, it doesn't need to be that way. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we do is injecting the customer experience and trying to build a really great customer experience just so someone can look at this and be like, wow, I really wish all of healthcare was like this, not just my family physician. Yeah. So that's what, occupies the majority of my professional time. I've been accused of being a dabbler before and all kinds of different business interests. So we're trying to spool up some different event centers and in the past was like real estate. So still have some rental real estate, all kinds of things, trying to build a diversified income stream, I would say. Mm-hmm. But I am just like a very curious individual, I would say. And I look and say, not necessarily the right time to do something, but I just feel like I want to learn everything there is about everything. Mm-hmm. And I probably waste a lot of my time doing that, but it's led to some fun people, fun conversations. And, I always joke that I'm one of those people that I still don't understand what I want to do when I grow up. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of influences this kind of lifelong learning and curiosity that carries me forward every day. So, not necessarily a cut and dry answer, but there you have it.
I think that's an ever-changing line that you're chasing, right? Like, what do I want to do when I grow up?
Yeah, I love to win. I'm competitive as hell, but I understand that in life and professionally, it's not just, the fourth quarter whistle doesn't just blow and you're like, oh, okay, now I can go on to the next thing, right? Like the goalposts are always moving. And so that's the people I like to work with that say, you know what, we're right here. Let's continue to evolve. Let's continue to move forward. And if somebody, we work with, and I tell my team this a lot, that just because that's the way something has been done in the past or that's the status quo does not mean that's the way we can do things tomorrow. Yeah. Because if we do, we're going to get our lunch taken, eaten, thrown away.
Well, especially
and we're going to get disposed of.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
This world now is constantly changing, constantly evolving. The competitive line is always changing as well, and you've got to keep up with that. Mm-hmm. It used to be looked down upon to be a jack of all trades, and to have many interests, not be a specialist in one thing. But now we're seeing if you're a specialist in one thing, you're behind the curve a lot of times.
Absolutely. There's a phenomenal book called Range out there, and
you said Range?
Range. Yeah.
Who's the author?
Somebody Epstein, not the weird Epstein. one of the good ones out there. And I know I was trying to think of his first name there. And
Was it a suicide? I think not.
I don't want to say anything out there. Depending who's listening to this one, please. I don't want to have to check underneath my truck, anymore. But he goes through this whole thing that the best athletes in the world right now, the ones at the top of their game, have the ability to pull on experiences from a very diversified past, and being able to look back and solve problems creatively is a skill set that is valued today more than it ever has been. There are exceptions. So he brings up like golf and he brings up chess, and then he's like, those people from a Tiger Woods standpoint, when he was 2, Tiger Woods had a golf club in his hand. Reason why: golf is a game with a very limited number of variables in it. So is chess. There's X amount of moves. There's a lot of moves,
right,
but there's only X amount. It's a closed environment. He looks at like Roger Federer in the tennis world and say, in a tennis world, when you're playing against somebody in an outdoor environment, there's so many more variables that can happen. That Roger Federer is so good because he grew up playing soccer. He has a footwork. He grew up playing so many different sports that combined into tennis that he's able to problem solve on the fly and draw on those different experiences, whether he's thinking about it or not.
Right.
And he goes in and says, that's what makes a lot of great business leaders out there and political leaders, is they didn't just set out and be like, okay, from 2 years old, you're going to be the president of the United States. The best ones are pulling from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different, diversified experiences. And so, just like you said, like it's kind of nice to say, what, there is a path forward for people kind of like myself who say, I couldn't imagine just specializing so narrowly. There are people out there that do that, and we need them,
Of course.
But that's just not me. And it was nice to find resources and a nice avenue for me to express myself, using different avenues and pulling on all the different experiences. Because I always tell people that like I'm probably one of the most ADD people out there, but that's okay. I've embraced it. I don't see it as a negative thing.
It can be a superpower when it's used appropriately.
Yeah. You pull in a lot of different things. Like, okay, today, I'm feeling really creative, and I'm gonna build some websites, or I'm gonna do some marketing materials. And then tomorrow, you know what? I'm gonna dive into the books because it's a little bit more analytical. I'm a little bit more in that mindset. And I used to struggle with it. I was always a very good student. I never had any problems with school. I think it was a little too easy for me sometimes because I can be a very quick study. And I'm not saying that, to brag or thump my chest or anything like that, but I'm just looking back at that and saying, wow, like if I didn't have athletics or something along those lines, to express that energy and get that out, I very easily could have run into problems. And so, very thankful for family and everybody else who said, hey, we're not going to, use you as a condition or anything like that. I was never diagnosed or anything like that, but learning like right now, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah,
What is diagnosis nowadays anyways?